Hi everyone. We're on the hard words now. This is the difficult words. This is where words stops being a game and starts being kind of a chore. This is the first day that on the Nano website I've input my mood during writing as the middle one, the straight face. Not either of the smiley faces. That's how serious it's getting now. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing. I've kind of got a destination in mind. I don't know how I'll get there. I didn't plan any of the sections I did today, and I just kind of went, just kind of wrote words, click buttons, looked what'll happen. Um, Words were very slow today. Everyone's still annoying me by being around and moving occasionally during the day. It's just a huge pain. Jeez, fucks. Anyway, uh, we'll get into it, and I'll explain stuff as we're going, I reckon. This is a brief Rob bit. It doesn't really need to be there. Probably won't make it into the finished thing. Let me just take a drink. Rob had gone to Zach's hideout for resolution. Resolution? Yeah, resolution. And had found none. The world that had been passing him the world that had been passing him by, weeks moving like days and months moving like weeks, was suddenly vivid, strange, and hostile. The feeling of looming danger hung over him as he made his unsteady way home. The days were getting short. Okay, the days were getting short that close to winter, and every shadow he passed on every street corner seemed somehow threatening. Relax, he told himself. They wouldn't be out during the day. It worried him too that he knew that. There was an energy in the air, a threat, a sudden light and sound and motion, like being in the crowd before a show starts. He knew something had happened soon, something that could no longer be ignored. He knew he should do something, but the daily routine he'd fallen into was all he really knew, and everything outside that was itself new and uncharted danger, even before you factored in the monsters. When he got home, the apartment was cold and hostile. The broken window, a source of unknown threat. Lacking the tools or talent to fix it, he affixed a single hair over the joint between the window and sill that would surely be dislodged if the window was opened. Every day had been the same up until very recently, his regimen set in stone, perfectly inflexible. As he lay awake in bed that night, Rob considered how easy it would be to assassinate someone so predictable as him. You know, that was sort of planned, semi-planned. We've kind of got a resolution for this. Obviously, when he wakes up in the morning, the hair will be gone, and that prompts him to call Zach, and then the team meets up and like fully forms. From that point, they're always together, I think. Um, so the next bit, I kind of wanted to introduce Piper properly, kind of as a joke. I had lying completely still on the ground in the when she showed up at. That's pretty much because I spent the first 20 days of Nano saying, "Oh, Piper's gonna be there. She's gonna turn up. It's gonna be great." Oh my god, I can't get 10 minutes. Okay, it's fine. I don't think they're coming this way. They're definitely coming this way. Also, okay, I lost one of the ears on my headphones at the same time that was happening. That was terrifying. Okay, yeah, there's some shit going on in the. I'm gonna just have to mute for a second because I've tried to record this like 3 times now. Oh, that's the background noise. Sorry about that. Oh, is it gonna do it every time? Hmm. Okay. They're still outside. This is the hard words. Sorry. I really don't want to read it while they're still lurking outside. I should probably restart, but I keep restarting. They just won't leave me alone. There's only so many times you can start the same video. I'll put timestamp in. did it again. Okay, they've gone. I probably won't put a timestamp in. That was a lie. I got you. I don't know what that background noise is when I turn my mic on. That's pretty worrying. My mic's kind of falling apart. One of the ears keeps going on it. This doesn't matter. Anyway, this is a proper introduction to Piper. Piper's kind of a weird character. I didn't. She's not like a funny joke person like the rest of the characters. She's pretty normal. And the idea where that should be like, I don't know. Everyone else is off doing weird stuff and doing crazy old nonsense, and then Piper's kind of the, I don't know. I can't really explain it, and that normally means I need to think it through more. Piper's like an anchoring force. She connects the team to people around them. Uh, she's very grounded, normal. Um, and she should be nice, and she's not like deadly serious, but she's not particularly funny either. And she's real sad, which is in itself sad. She's been through a lot. The whole previous story I never wrote that she's one of 4 survivors of. Hang on. Yeah, Zach is technically, but he wasn't there for very long. So I'm not even sure if it counts. There wasn't enough space for 3 people in the little room in the basement, and the closeness of her companions was starting to drive April up the wall. Piper she could deal with. The two had been roommates for forever. Let me just do that one. Okay, we're gonna have a free word tomorrow. That's exciting. The two had been roommates for forever, but dealing with Zach so frequently in such proximity was intolerable. They could leave at night, as long as they didn't try to fully exit the building or touch anything. Previously, they'd been camping out in the wilderness between places in Zach's caravan, dodging any sign of civilization by day and never sleeping in the same place twice. That was a little easier to deal with. You could always just walk off if it got too annoying. April would rather have Zach around than not most of the time. She just kind of wished he had an off switch. It was more consistent conversation than Piper, and was pretty much the only person she could talk to about the creeping madness that seemed to be bleeding into the world. He was also, however, loud, sarcastic, and lived in a completely separate reality. The worst were his phone calls. What were his phone calls? The worst was his phone calls? What are you talking about, you maniac? I'm not sure if that got a wavy green line and it corrected itself. The grammar thing on this is really bad. It's very frequently wrong. The worst were his phone calls. They could go on for ages. In the downtime, Zach would be both sending and receiving calls at odd hours, day and night. His manner on the call would start out reasonable and gradually descend into rapt enthusiasm, his speech growing faster and faster until it was an unintelligible set of syllables or anger. He tended to annoy people who he spoke to for any length of time. And over the phone, he'd talk a lot of shit once they reached that point. In the close confines of the building, there wasn't anywhere you could go to get out of earshot if he really started yelling. April had started out trying to eavesdrop on the calls, but quickly realised the side she was listening to was never the interesting one and gave up. What am I doing with tenses today? That wasn't something I'd realised was happening. Sometimes, if it sounded particularly intriguing or he managed to not get mad for a really long time, she'd casually ask him what was going on. The answer was inevitable. It's nothing. Don't worry about it. She didn't know if Zach thought she wasn't ready to know any of the juicy parts about the situation, or if he just didn't trust her. Zach was easily the most paranoid person she'd ever encountered. She wished he wouldn't keep secrets, though. The presence of this divide between them only served to annoy her more when the two were in close proximity. That's kind of pointless. There's a lot of pointless bits there. Zach refused to rent anywhere fit for human habitation, which had been a problem once they'd moved out of the country and into the city. It was Piper who had managed to call in the big favour that saw them with a place to go at night. That night, they'd borrowed a game of Monopoly with most of the pieces from the storeroom in the basement, and immediately fallen out. Piper had been aggressively uninterested in playing, and April was pretty sure Zach was stealing 500s from the bank. She'd retired to the break room upstairs to try and judge the extent of her wound with a hand mirror. It was difficult to tell exactly how awful it was going to be. Maybe that was for the best right now. She looked rough. So that's another thing. I wanted to address like how bad exactly April's wound was, and I wanted to introduce Piper, and then I don't know. That's kind of all that we covered in this section. We just wanted Piper to do things, move around, and say things for a minute. We haven't. I've never written Piper in the current form. I have, but not for very long. Not as like a full Nano. I kind of wanted to get a. Well, I still want for a full Nano. She showed up bloody 35,000 words in. But yeah, there's gonna be a feeling out period, and if I don't know what I'm gonna be doing with a day, most of the words aren't gonna make it into the main thing, and I might as well be writing about Piper, I guess. April snapped the mirror shut reflexively as the door creaked open. Speaking of which, Piper walked in groggily, having napped recently. Piper had given up on Monopoly fairly quickly, and had slept through the second half of the game where April had been inevitably ground down by the might of Zach's real estate empire. Ah, sorry, Am, she mumbled. April's name is April May. She's got a hyphenated first name. So Piper calls her Am as a nickname. I don't know. I think I've never said that April's name is April May. I think everyone just addresses her as April, and I always just type April. That's probably important information to know before this point. Don't worry about it. Sit down if you like, April replied, stuffing the mirror back into her pocket and making an effort to adjust the bandages quickly, not wanting to give away the extent to which the itching wound was bothering her. She failed. You really got caught, Piper told her warily, still somewhat in awe of the gouge, which she'd just caught a fresh glimpse of. She backpedaled, embarrassed. I didn't. I. Sorry. I didn't mean to draw attention to it. I'll go. April sighed. You know, it didn't even hurt when it happened. I remember falling, and I remember realizing I was bleeding. It wasn't until the others saw me they actually worked out what happened. I don't think it properly hurt until we were on our way to the hospital. The claws had been exquisitely sharp, each leaving an effortless gouge in its wake. It's two gouges, and I don't like the first gouge at all. That needs to be a different word. Like a hot knife through a human ear. She'd have lost the eye too if she hadn't broken one of the monster's claws earlier. Must have been sharp. Piper spoke up only to show she was still listening. She still hadn't fully entered the room, standing awkwardly in the doorway. How are you then? You look a bit healthier than usual. April offered to bring her into the conversation, hoping she might sit down. Piper was slow to respond. She didn't like talking about herself. I'm fine now. I just don't have the energy sometimes, you know? You seem pretty out of it this afternoon. April realized she was straying into difficult territory, but couldn't think of a natural segue out. She nodded. This afternoon sucked. Piper wasn't doing well. She hadn't been doing well before there were monsters trying to eat her, and she hadn't gotten any better since. That guy earlier seemed nice, Piper ventured cautiously, as if she wasn't sure if the subject of Rob being nice or not was taboo. April figured she was trying to apologize for earlier, her negative vibes having thrown her into a roughly catatonic state. That's quite a nice sentence. She got that way sometimes when the weather was bad, and April didn't really think about it. When Piper ventured a statement unprompted, it was a good idea to gauge what she might be trying to apologize for. This is like a lot to just tell you, but it's more for me than like a potential reader. This is me trying to feel out the character. Yeah, I quite like Rob. She remembered taking the hit for him, and a burgeoning scar itched again. Surely it hadn't been worth it. April realized quickly she had nothing more to add. The conversation between her and Piper had grown increasingly stagnant since the pair had stopped being roommates and started being fugitives. Guy was just a worker at the tower Zach adopted. He was handy to have around when it came to it, though. She wondered if she'd said anything to lessen Piper's concerns. Do you want to come sit down? April finished. Piper timidly inched her way out of the doorway. Piper was tall, but carried herself defensively, giving off the impression that she was always slightly closer than she seemed. She wore long, baggy clothes, short, neat hair, and thick glasses, though she'd slowly begun to look more rugged as the team had grown more distant from the civilized world. She was originally from Australia, but she had an accent it wasn't one April recognised. They'd met online when they were each on opposite ends of the globe. They'd both been a little happier then. A lot less had been happening, and yet there'd been so much more to talk about. I was going to put the kettle on if you wanted anything, Piper asked, scratching nervously at one of her wrists. April wondered why Piper would be so nervous talking to her, then realised she was probably trying to avoid mentioning a broken face. Bit late for me, thanks. It was well into the evening. Piper didn't really sleep though. I don't think we're allowed to use the milk, by the way, unless you bought some while we were out. Piper stopped. I'm no longer putting the kettle on. False alarm, April joked. Piper twitched nervously and tried not to look at her. April considered that if the two were going to talk about anything ever again, they were going to have to get this horrible facial deformity business out of the way now. You can talk about it, you know. Talk about what? None of them were good liars, but Piper was downright awful. You know what? April told her. Do you want to see it? Piper was less than enthused. I don't know. Is it nasty? Very. Deeply nasty, April told her. I assume. I can't see it. When Zach saw it, he fainted. Piper considered this. Like, needed to sit down, fainted, or collapsed? He went very white and very wobbly, April clarified. He didn't fall down. I'm not sure I'm the best person for the job. Piper held up her hands. April doubted this. Piper was her closest friend, which made her the only person she would ever consider for the task. And she had also been a freak for horror films when they had such luxuries in their lives. Besides, Piper was a Cold War survivor. She'd seen worse, surely. I'd really like to know, April explained. I need a proper mirror or a volunteer. There was a mirror in the bathroom, but she'd avoided looking at it because she was scared. April hates. She already hated mirrors, by the way. I don't know why. That's the thing I remembered when I was writing that bit. Like, she wouldn't have looked at the mirror in the bathroom. Sorry about that sound. My hair was in the way again. Um, yeah, April just doesn't like mirrors. She's scared of water as well, but like so is everyone. And I know like lots of weird details about my characters, but not like there's other huge gaps. When people do like the quizzes and stuff, you can get like a character questionnaire, and it asks you like loads of benign questions, like what's the character's favorite color? And I can never do any of those, but I always have like just weird little bits in mind. Okay, where were I? I've lost where I want to. Uh, yeah, okay. There was a mirror in the bathroom, but she'd avoided looking at it because she was scared. I'm certainly going to need an outside opinion at some point. I'll be horrified even if it's not that bad. I'll take a look if you want, Piper decided, steeling herself. And then that's going to be for tomorrow. I might put something like, yeah, I might add a little clause at the end here to say that, like, this is hopeful. This part is, oh, well, it might not even be that bad, and I'll still be like, oh, that's pretty bad. I don't know. Yeah, this is wishful. It's pretty bad. She's lost a lot of an ear to start with. That's not great. So I don't think the words are that bad. I think they're kind of aimless, and we need to get back on track. Luckily, oh my god, I swear to Christ, how long has it been? Okay, I'm gonna just cut this off now. It's been 20 minutes, and I've been interrupted twice. Thanks for being here.